Oh dear. Lights are very, is that as good as we can get with the lights? I see. Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Robert Levitt. I'm the acting dean of the Daniels faculty, and I'd just like to welcome you all here for tonight's lecture, and it's great to have you. It's a lecture by Stefano Pujatti called It is About Time. So before we proceed, I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So, on to tonight's event. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce tonight's speaker, Stefano Pujatti, who I have known since 2014, when he began to work in Toronto and teach occasional courses at the Daniels faculty. Stefano is the founder of ELASTICOFarm, an architectural firm based here in Toronto and in Turin, Italy. The firm is well known for merging formal and material explorations in a way that addresses global challenges by strategically leveraging local resources. In 2023, Stefano's project, S-Lab, a new laboratory for Italy's National Institute of Nuclear Physics, won the Italian Architectural Prize, awarded by the Maxxi Museum, and the Triennale di Milano for the best built project in Italy. His project, SlowHorse, not related to the TV show, which involved renovating and expanding an existing ski resort in the Dolomites, was shortlisted for the Mies Award in 2013 and was the winner of the Plan Award in 2015. In addition to his built work, Stefano has taught at the Politecnico di Torino, Politecnico di Torino, and here at the University of Toronto. And he has exhibited at the Architecture Biennale in Venice at least 4 times, maybe more, most recently in 2021. In this lecture, Stefano will discuss a selection of both built and unbuilt projects, conveying how environmental factors such as time, climate, and water influence his firm's design process. Buildings like the SlowHorse Hotel exemplify his project towards sustainability through design that integrates natural elements like snow and ice into the building's tectonics, and provides both an organic foundation and a truly distinctive appearance. So following Stefano's presentation, he and I will sit for some discussion. I hope to talk to him a little bit about his history and the influence that his education had on him at SciArc, and his move to Los Angeles before returning to Italy and then joining us here in Toronto. And then I will also give you all a chance to discuss some things that you'd like to with Stefano. So join me in welcoming him to the stage. Stefano.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excuse me. It's about, I want to thank everybody for being here, and it's very hard because it's like talking at home. I feel at home in Toronto. So a lot of faces I know, a lot of people that I'm happy to see tonight. And thank Robert for calling me and inviting me to present our work. So I start with my lecture. It's about time to start the lecture. And it's start with lecture with this work of Alberto Garruti, which I really think is very meaningful for me, because every step I took in my life brought me here now. And it's true that there's a lot of steps, and for me it's an achievement to be here. And it's a lot of steps that were very important, and a lot of people that were important. And I selected some of those steps, which are always, a step is always a loss of balance. And that's why you move forward or you move backward. But anyway, the movement is through a loss of balance. And I present the work of our office always showing this herd of cattle, because the herd of cattle represents a unity, and the unity which is genetically connected. Every project is genetically connected like the animals of this herd. And our role as architects, but even as engineers and lawyers or accountants that work with us in the project, is keeping the herd together. So the project, after all, is one only project, which is made of many smaller projects that actually will create this herd that the day that we will close the office actually will be the done project, let's say. But on the families that genetically connect this herd, is like I always envision few themes that come out and which are important in our work. Water for sure, structure, tempo, movement, and matter. I talk about tempo not because in Italian tempo keeps together time and weather. And this is, in architecture, is a very, very important, every architecture piece has to deal with that, time and weather. And then I talk about matter, not materials, because matter comes before materials. And through the manipulation of matter, you can obtain a lot of materials and different materials. For example, through clay, you can give different shapes, and you can cook more, cook less, cook for a longer time, or higher temperature, and you obtain different materials that react differently to tempo, to time and weather. And so you can use something for a floor, or you can use it for a roof, or whatever. And this depends on the shape you give and the time you cook it. Our work of the office has always been influenced somehow by me, of course, but and especially from my obsession for water, that probably comes from me living for a long time in Venice. And in Venice, I had the opportunity to experiment how water can actually change the way you move through the city, or you feel the city. And I was living in a courtyard that actually was, for some reason, was lower than the rest of the city. So when the acqua alta came, the high tide comes, we were the first to feel it, to see that coming. And this was very important because I actually understood the very basic law that they taught me when I was at the elementary school, probably, that of the communicating vessels. But at the same time, if I watched up and watched the walls of the city, I saw always this stain, big stain on the walls, and this was caused by something that is actually contradictory to the law of the communicating vessel. That is the law of capillarity, in which the superficial force of the underwater causes the fact that the thinner the channel is, the higher the water goes. So understanding this for us is very important, because then it creates corrosion on the walls. It can do many things to our building. And water is always considered by architecture an enemy we have to protect, and it comes from above, from the sides, from below, and we never know. But at the same time, we need water, and water can become a friend and can work with us towards the projects. The first project I will talk about is located in northwestern Italy, close to Torino, very close to Torino. In this site that used to be the place where we had our office for 10 years. It's a brick factory. Working in that brick factory was very important for us, because we got the opportunity to know how the material is produced, and to meet with engineers and people who work to produce the materials, but even with artists that actually use the material in a different way, or try to use the material and research on the material. The first, when we were there, we were asked, the first project we were asked to do was actually a project for an exhibit on bricks, and all architects and artists were asked to build a pillar, 80 by 80, And that pillar had to have different characters. Someone had to build a pillar that was a Baroque pillar, someone a Roman pillar, someone a medieval pillar. We were asked to do the contemporary one because we were the youngest. And we built, so we cooked the bricks, the same brick, at different temperatures, and we for different times, and we created these layers of bricks, and on top we glazed some bricks, cooking them very, very much, and we put them on top. You see that this one was the pillar as soon as we finished it, and this was the result after 1 year. And this to us was very, very important, gave us a lot of feedback, and actually helped us to think about materials in kind of a different way. The connection of this put together with our passion for art, and especially for arte povero, which is conceptual art in Italy, actually gave us the energy to experiment even in architecture. But the project I want to talk was not that. It's this project where we were asked to transform these silos. This is a brick earth silos into an office building. So these silos, it's interesting to understand how these silos was working. You saw it was a monolithic block of bricks. This silos the earth was generally carried on through conveyor belts to the top of the third floor up here, and then was dropped down on these two naves here, which were actually the storage area. And this happened during the summer. In the winter, when outside the earth was not usable, through some carts, it was carried to the factory and became bricks. And this is important to understand the project, because when I went for the first time into the building, I realized that this is the nave one part of the nave at the second floor. I realized that there was this line, and this line was the sign that there was earth on the other side, in the other nave, and that earth actually gave us the idea of breaking through that wall and going into the other nave. And to go up to the third floor, I had to escalate this pile of earth that is like this line here. So what we decided to do is to give form to the earth, put some wire and wire mesh, pour the concrete, and create a new floor, and then take the earth underneath that was used like a frame and bring it away. And this is the result of this work, and this actually how this one of the nave stayed empty, the other nave became this pile of this line that remembers the pile of concrete. We broke through the wall, and all the managers and the directors of the factories work from these plateaus here, and while the people get into the office in this area. This is the view. These are the view looking up, and this is the view looking down from that escalation. These are the wires that actually were part of the old floor, of the third floor. The bottom floor was very interesting because it was full of columns. Of course, to hold all the weight of the earth, they needed a lot of concrete columns, and so all of those were all columns. We needed to use it for changing rooms and for the space for changing room and for a canteen. So we actually cut the pillars. We cut the pillars and we use them as lighting diffusers. This is how we peeled off the outside, and we created a monumental entrance, so much that this building was called the cathedral. And being called the cathedral, we decided to put a gargoyle on top of the roof, and we had it built by a guy that was working there, was in pension, and you see that It's really, it put down the water on this area here. And yeah, this is the entrance. This is how we peeled off the walls. And this, I think it kept the idea of the monolithic, though we opened a lot and we were able to show the interior. The other project I'm talking about is not clay anymore, so it talks about something else, and it's a cemetery in close to Torino too, very close to Torino, in an area that is the outskirts of Torino, and this is all the part of still part of the city, and this is a park where there used to be a lot of quarries of gravel and rocks. And in this park there is a cemetery, an old cemetery, and we were asked to build a cemetery as big, nearly as big as this. So we wanted the park to become part of the cemetery, and so we let between the two cemeteries, we let the park go through, and we created a new cemetery here. But our client asked, which is the city, asked us to have one only entrance to be able to control. So we bridged through the park. We created a bridge, and the park goes through. This is a park where they make a lot of experimentation on vegetables and many other things. So it's an agricultural park. And this is how it's actually, you have the entrance here, the bridge, and you go into another space that is a plateau. The bridge is this, you fall into the plateau, and this becomes the section. Talking about this is important to understand the typology of the cemetery in Italy, which is completely different from Anglo-Saxon or Northern Europe cemeteries. Cemeteries in Northern Europe and Anglo-Saxon, and even in Canada, are mostly landscape projects. In Italy, they are houses. They are built projects. They are houses for the dead people. Our project was merging those two ideas, trying to become landscape, being anyway a built form. So we cross this bridge that goes through the park, and we land on top of this plateau that looks into the landscape and sees the city there. The old cemetery is here. You see the building of the cemetery that we refused to do. And we had, you will see later, where you saw in the section, actually, the tombs are there, which means they're underneath here. And these are the tombstones that this was not till open yet, the project. But the thing that I was talking about before is that we are in a park in which there are a lot of quarries for gravel. So we had the idea of using everything that we were doing had to be about gravel, about the stone and the idea of the stone. So we have huge pieces of stone that create the outside walls, the retaining walls. Then we have thinner stones, stones for the slopes that they don't fall down, up to the concrete that is washed to show the stones inside. And this is, you see, the different stone thickness, here on the floor, on the concrete. But another thing that is important in Italian idea of the cemetery is the iconography that is behind. This image is about Il Giudizio Universale, the universal judgment by Beato Angelico. And you see that the tombs open up for the resurrection. So our project, actually, this is the structure where you walk on top. You have a tree that represents the resurrection that comes from below and goes up. And connects, give the idea of the rebirth, and every spring becomes a rebirth. You see, this is the area of connection to the park. This is the castle, so the landscape becomes part of the cemetery. Another way to use stones is in Friuli. Friuli is an area very close to Austria, and you see these rivers are very dry rivers and are all of stones. So most of Friuli is built on stones. But we had a huge earthquake in 1976. And thanks even to Toronto, we rebuilt, to the Canadian Friuli community, we rebuilt a lot of buildings. But what is interesting is that after this earthquake, if you wanted, there is a bylaw of the region that says that you cannot build with stones. So structures cannot be stone. But there is a bylaw in the city that says that every building has to be built in stone to coordinate to the rest. So the thing is, I have to go to hell because I have to lie. And every building is actually concrete, cladded with a thin layer of stone. So we said this means it's decoration, so ornament and crime. And we said, instead of ornament and crime in Italy is ornamento e delitto, we said ornament and diritto is like ornament is a right we achieved. So you see, we thought about using the stone as an ornament. And actually, we created kebab of stones that were actually being used really for as screens as a brise-soleil for the windows, while the structure of the building stayed exactly in concrete and showed its strength to resist to these seismic forces. So this is the house, and you see how it's from the outside. It's very heavy. It doesn't look like it's transparent. That it can be something that is actually has no mortar. But when the night comes, you see how this becomes very light. And during the day, the interior is really very light. During the night, actually, I have no picture, but the night, this becomes a wall that closes you out. And this was an idea of using stone, and it was really like ironically thinking about the bylaw. So even the bylaw can become a reason to joke about architecture and to do architecture. This now I'm showing two projects that are like the parent one and parent two of one project we did for Toronto that unfortunately was not built. Anyway, this is the building. This building was we were asked to transform this building from the 18th century in an atelier for a florist. So basically a flower shop. And we very stupidly thought of building a greenhouse and having the flowers inside. But this, actually, we didn't consider that the orientation of this facade was northwest. And northwest in summer means that from 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening, you have the sun hitting. And this is this would make this space here not work because with flowers you can't use to match air condition because it dries the leaves. So we were really in a crisis up to the moment in which our mechanical engineer said, oh, it will work only when it rains. So we thought we could make it rain every day using the water of the well and recycling it. We had the fortune to have a well here in the property which could not be used for anything because the water is slightly contaminated. So we made the water become part of the facade, cooling down the facade in summer, and actually creating an effect of noise that creates this area. Actually, you don't feel the cars passing by, but you feel more the water. And this is an anthropology study that actually I realized afterwards that the noise of water covers most of the other noises. And this is one of the reasons fountains are very important, to refresh and somehow and to create the noise that isolates. And the interior actually was interesting because it creates a veil that creates a mystery of what happens inside. The facade is this, and this is. So it's the result of a mistake, But as most of the projects, you make mistakes and then either you cry or you solve them. And it's never good to cry. Another project that it's actually it's important for what comes next is this is a building in the mountain. And before talking about this, I speak about water in a different form, that is snow. And even snow is a material. This work of Andy Goldworthy, which is an artist that I don't love, but this work I think is really interesting because it shows how if you packed everything, something that everybody knows, if you pack the snow, this can resist to the temperature much more than if it's loose. So this is very important because it shows that snow is a material, and you can use it as a material. So we were asked to build something in place of this, but they were when we won the bidding, actually they were very worried because we never built in the mountain before, and they had these two buildings that actually had huge problems that you probably all know from Toronto, because freezing and thawing creates a disaster in that kind of rounded surface, especially in metal. So they were like very, very worried about that. And we decided, so we told them, well, we will build a roof. That's Adolf Loos saying building in the mountains means building a roof. And the idea was that. And how to use water and snow and make it become important for the place. Water is very important in that area. One, for the snow. Second, because it's a karst land, so there is no water. And so you have to collect as much as possible to then bring it to the ski tracks and then being able to create a new surface to ski. So you see all the building actually is a roof, and the water goes down, and underneath here there is a huge tank that then pumps the water to a lake to become then snow again in another situation. And it's all a building that was built pretty fast. Before the winter, we were able to build this platform on top of what remains of the old yellow building you saw before. And then we were able to build in wood, all of this during the summer, and using a slate facade, slate for the surfaces and the stones. And you see that the real material is water or ice or snow, whatever you call it. And this is how this actually relates to this. And someone told us you wanted to imitate somehow the mountain. We really didn't, but actually the mountains is shaped with the same forms somehow that is shaped by the same forces that we considered in our design. And this is the real project. So I talk about Toronto now, and about a project that I was very lucky to have, and taught me a lot. And it's especially because it came during a period I was teaching here at U of T, and I was teaching a studio that was building for the cold. I was kind of shocked that the looking at Toronto from the lake was similar to looking at Miami from the ocean. The form of the city is the same, but the temperature there is 40 degrees, and here is minus 40s plus 40s. So it's like I was shocked that the form of the city was actually the same. So this project is at the beaches, and the beaches I realized is a fresher place in summer, but a really cold place in winter. And analyzing the built environment, I realized that the old building actually had a lot of protection from the outside. So there is a veranda, there is a bay window. And while the new buildings are actually very exposed, so they look toward the outside, they connect the outside and the inside. And somehow, I don't want to criticize, but it makes the beaches similar to Venice Beach or Miami Beach. So the idea is, well, is there a way in which these two things, of course my clients wanted this, so is there a way that I can put those things together? Is it, the lot actually we had was very, very interesting because this is Kenilworth, one road in the beaches, this is a park, and this is the lot which had a big space here that is empty for connecting the street to the park. And so our facade was not actually this, but our facade was this. The biggest facade, the most important facade was this. And so, but the other thing that was very funny is that this facade is exposed northwest, same than the facade of the florist. And you might think that Toronto is more north than Torino, but Toronto is southern than Torino as a latitude. Toronto is same latitude of Florence. Torino is a little bit more north. So that said, means that in summer, you have the same hour of heating the sun hitting the building that you have in Torino. And this is just a check to show how in summer, in the afternoon, actually, this facade is totally in the sun, while in winter, this facade is totally in the shadow all day. So we decided to build we designed a building like you do design a building, but the interesting thing was we wanted to have a big windows watching out, but at the same time, we knew we had in summer to protect this window through a grid that could create a shadow. So you could see in some parts very clearly, in some other parts not as clearly, and somehow this facade was shaded on that side. But what happens when winter comes and when that facade is totally in the shadow? These images I stole them from my students here. So this was a facade frozen after a fire. And I found it very interesting how it completely changed the image of the building. And this is how farmers actually protect the gems in spring when there is a sudden freezing. And they spray it with water, and actually it creates the gem to be protected. So we thought of breaking the gutters and using this grid as to get the water down during the summer. But when the temperature dropped down, we could spray it with water, warm water, actually, we realized this better, to create a frozen facade. And that frozen facade, other than being interesting to watch it, it had something that was interesting because it created a buffer between the outside of the house and the inside, this buffer of air, in which the dispersion of the house that you anyway have could bring a temperature around -2 or -0, so a lot more than what you would have. And this, we don't know if it would work. I want to be sincere, but that's not so interesting. It's just a way we started thinking about sustainability in not only connected to the performance of the materials, but something else, something that could give something not only to the engineers, but even to us. And these were scale 1-to-1 mock-ups that we were able to build when we still thought we were going to build the thing. And then it happened that we didn't, but we learned so much that we are very grateful we could work on this project. And this is from Kenilworth, the facade, and this in summer and how it would look in winter. Of course, I'm not going to show you plans or stuff like that because it's already boring like this, so I can imagine how boring it could be. This project is instead, I'm showing a lot of things. So if you get tired, just tell me. And it's in the seaside. It's a different way of relating to water. So in this case, we actually go into the water. It's the project we are working now in this moment in my office, and I'm pretty excited of it. We are going to start in September, And so we are submitting the construction drawings now. It's this pier here is between the open sea and the lagoon here. And it actually got destroyed by the last, you see that there is no connection here with the light here. It was destroyed from the force of the sea and from the wind. This area this part of the Adriatic Sea can be very calm, but it's very close to Trieste. And Trieste, there is a very strong wind that is called Bora. And when this blows, it really creates huge waves and not hard to resist, for a structure to resist. So we were asked to build a pier that would substitute this one, but had to be stronger and somehow not and resist to the forces, but even become something that would become a destination for people to go. Because this here is the place when people, when get married, they go to take pictures. I was always fascinated by these structures in the lagoon of Venice, that are really thin, and but they resist to a lot of forces, and sometimes these things here are planted, some of these poles are planted 100 years ago, and they resist to the salt, the humidity, or whatever. So it's like this, probably the fact of being so thin and so flexible, I don't know what's but anyway, there was something very interesting for us on this. So I started thinking about how that passerelle could relate to those kind of buildings. You see, it was September when we started working on that. And so we started thinking about how that straight line could not be a straight line, but could create different perspective, watching toward the sea or watching toward toward the lagoon, and actually could become something lighter. But one thing that was really bothering me was the idea of having a parapet. And that parapet that could kill actually the idea of lightness of this structure. So we thought of creating nets around the pier, in which people could actually go there and lay, and so get the suntan and whatever. This was just a joke at the beginning, but then we started understanding which kind of nets, and we had to work with people on chemistry, with engineers, and now we finally got to design the correct net that resists to all the forces. Is a Kevlar mix, and actually is not cutting you when you lay down. And so you see that the passerelle became this element. And the other thing that was very important for us, that this was the old pier that was catching all the waves that was getting in this way. We built something in this condition here. So actually with the engineers, we talked with the hydraulic engineer, I don't know if you say so, and we understood that this form would actually relate to the waves in a completely different way from the other one. And so we bent the pier, and we created a fishing how you say fishing box on the bottom that would substitute actually the firelight. Structurally, it was very challenging because we are using posts that are 8 centimeters, between 8 and 10 centimeters. And the way of, we have the passerelle is built on prefabricated concrete, special concrete for salt, to resist to the salt. And the way it's built, it's pretty interesting, at least to us, because we have helical poles, which are drilled into the ground, and then you put the slab of concrete, and then you proceed and you put other poles, and you go on and you tie them with some wires that keep all the structure connected. So it becomes monolithic through some tension cords that keep everything together. This is how we see this final thing. We hope this will go away, but still we put it because If we take them away, they start crying. This the idea of the pole, and this is how we think it will relate to the place. We go from very light, of trying to be light, to a different way. And now I speak about material as related to structure. We had material and landscape, water, material as water. Now we would like to talk about the material, how material can become structural and how it can be used. And this was a project that we got before actually. We started the project before having a commission, because I was asked by the owner of the quarry here to think to how to use granite from Sardinia in a different way, because actually nowadays granite from China is much cheaper, and actually same granite. Granite is granite. So we had to create some marketing thing that could actually help them. And so I went to see the quarry, and I was impressed of how it gets called. It gets built, it gets cut, because it gets cut with machines that they cut it straight. They make these holes, and then they put wires, and then this it cuts like polenta is cut. I don't know if you're familiar. It's like you cut with a wire, and it's cut perfect cut. And when I was there, we built this little machine for the little block to put the machine, to store the machines. But I found out that using structurally like that, it was something already done, and something that actually was not giving anything new to the idea of the granite. I instead asked them to cut me some slabs that could be easily transported, so the maximum dimension, 6 meters by 3 meters, by 12 centimeters. And actually these slabs, I told them just to cut them, that I would have made a thought about. Then I came to Toronto, and I got a call that there was a client that wanted to build 2 houses for the daughters. He's a southern Italian, very proud guy, doctor, that he wanted his houses, the houses of his daughter, to be completely different from the rest of the village. So he said, well, thank you, that's good. And so, you see, Daniels is there. I got some business cards and started thinking of how to put them together. This was my client that when I was working. So you see, they are all my history, beginning of history in Toronto. So we designed one house that was very Rietveld kind of thinking, and the other one that, of course, we have to mess it up. We tried to make it more complicated, creating a courtyard in the middle. And these are the sketches. And then the good people in the office actually put together this house and this house. And it was like this house, you would say, it's easy to build. And this is difficult to build. Actually, this is much more difficult because of it doesn't resist to the loads, diagonal loads, while this resists very, very well to. So this actually have some steel inside to connect the floors. This hasn't. This is everything else is. This is structural, and this is the rest is actually only filling. So this model was made by 2 ex-students that came from Toronto, that came for a summer to work in the office, and they made this amazing model that then we learned a lot how to fill in the spaces between the slabs, and it was, it was very, very difficult to think of how to insulate a structure like that without having thermal bridges, and at the same time how to waterproof that. And that was kind of difficult. I will not tell the secrets, but it was like a big gamble to do that. But we were able, and we were kind of, this moment, this is the first slab of granite going to connect with the rest, and it was very emotional to see how that actually worked out. Because when this granite was not carried from a factory, but it was done in the quarry. So just out of the quarry, they cut these pockets, and they put this wire in the middle, and they connect it to the rest. And this is the result. This was the first model, which was easy, because you just do that. But doing this was not as easy. And these are the houses. You see these elements here are concrete, and they were in concrete not because of the cost, not because of the resistance. It's only for calculation reason. So if we didn't make that, we would have had to wait months and months to get it tested. All the stones had to be tested, while this helped us to go through that. And we actually, at the end of the day, liked it, because it would be too much of a tomb, only in granite. And this is the other, this one house, this is the other. And this is the reason why he didn't like the rest of the houses around, and he asked us to build these two houses. What we learned from this project actually led to the project that Robert was saying before, that won an award. I personally would have not given the prize to that project, but I would have given to the one you just saw, because they were competing in the same year, and this is the building for a nuclear building, and we actually used that idea of the concrete slabs and the structure only in one part. So this is a mixed structure. Is a structure that is partially traditional, partly actually like the houses you have seen. And yeah, this is all. It's just a space made through these slabs. But we actually could get there. So we always use the housing or the smaller project to be able to then experiment and bring to a bigger scale, and somehow knowing how those things can actually help us to go can happen and become more. I will show you. I'm nearly finished. I will show you this project that is again on the northwest side of Italy. It's a project that is important for us because it was it happened at the same time we were doing those houses, heavy houses with the slabs, and it's actually a project that is completely different. It's we wanted to build something that was absolutely as light as we could, and the idea came because we had to build on top of this house. We were asked to build on top of this house, and actually they told us that the structure would not hold another floor for seismic reasons. So we said, let's build at the side and go on top, just partially, and we built something that is as light as we can imagine. So we thought of building something on stilts, and yes, and I kind of like the idea that comes here. This is it's called the Soffione house, which is a dandelion house, something like that. And these were the first sketches, and when we started building, they kind of looked the same. So we learned a lot doing this, and we learned that when you build on top of something else, the bottom becomes an interesting space, and actually it's very important, this empty hole here. The project is called the hole with the house around, because this hole is very important because it makes you feel the vertigo of being suspended. If we didn't have this hole in the middle, we could have been in an apartment building everywhere. While that hole that shows the leg actually became important for us to build. And the lightness happened even because we were able to create a structure above and hanging a lot of stuff. For example, the stair is hanging from the top, so it becomes very light. This leads to the last project, which is a very important project, and I hope to explain it correctly. If I use the wrong words, please forgive me. but it's a project in Manitulin Island for the, which is, and it's a very dear project to me because it connected me a lot with indigenous culture and made me understand how much suffering there was in this land, and how many good people like Dr. Shirley Shaku, who is actually the director of the Film Institute, and she tries to help endangered youth to actually find a way through movie making and even nature-related education. And this is it was very touching. Manitulin Island is this kind of environment, summer and winter. You all know that, you are from here. But we had a lot of discussion when we started dialoguing or talking about what the building had to be. And the first thing they told me, the building had to be a turtle. And to me, you know, a turtle from an indigenous movie director is one thing, and a turtle for an Italian architect, a little bit dumb too, is another thing. And so we had a lot of discussion because for her the turtle was a turtle. And for me the turtle was a metaphor of something else. And so we found a way, and we were able to find the connection when we thought about nomad building and how actually the turtle, actually the house of the turtle actually can be moved. And we were lucky enough not to have a place in that moment. So we said, we have to build something that can go in many places and can touch the ground, doesn't depend on the ground, and can touch the ground the minimum possible. So we actually studied, started thinking about something that was elevated on stilts, but at the same time, there was something very important to the elderly people and to the people I talked to, that was the central idea of the building. The building had to have a center, and the center had to be the important part of the building. So we designed a building that was built on plaques, all related, that were all going around this central part. And you see there are holes that allow you to go to and look and see the legs of the building, for the reason I told you before. So this is the plan, actually the theater, which can be divided and become school, and all the spaces going around and up in a spiral, up to the top part where there is the art gallery. And but what was very interesting for us is designing the landscape underneath that could become another theater place that was related. At this point, we already had a place where to build. So we actually related to the water, and we had this theater down here. This is the section. And this is a rendering that shows how the idea of the grids could become here not only a performance, an idea of helping the performance of the building, but even a way of connecting the building to the landscape. And this is in summer, and this is the view in winter. And this is when we presented this project in 2021 in the Biennale in Venice. Just the day before, it came out the news about the residential schools. So I was talking about there, when they interviewed me, about residential schools, and no one in Italy or around knew about that. And I was talking about them, and I was explaining what's the meaning of this red cloth here, and Dr. Shirley Shaku, and that was the day after it came out on every magazine. And they all called me and said, "This is what you were talking about." That's exactly what, unfortunately, I was talking about. So what will happen to this project? I don't know. This is Wisława Zibowska, and I always quote her as a master to me, because she had a great speech when she had the Nobel, and they asked her what was, and you know, she talked about the I don't know as the key of creativity. So the thing we try to do in our office is actually starting not knowing where to go and actually collecting all the messages that come from people, from the mental landscape of our clients, and try to bring it on from materials, from everything possible. Try to be as sensitive as possible to what happens and then coming out with a project. That's why the cows are all different, but somehow they're linked together. Thank you very much. The work is not done yet.
No. It's easy.
But I need water now.
We can do that.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, thank you. That was great. I love seeing work. I love the opening and closing metaphor of the herd of cows and your description of it. And I was thinking about it because the work is so diverse in appearance, let's say, but the sensibility, the project, the things that make it hang together in terms of the openness to material research and circumstance, I guess in a sense the navigation and choreography of forces of material, of weather, climate.
Clients.
Clients.
That's forces.
Well, yeah, that's another kind of force. Anyway, it's just interesting to see how a certain set of, I think, commitments to things produce this kind of thematic unity in the herd of projects that you've done. So, I mean, it was great, and congratulations for, I think, a remarkable body of work.
Thank you very much.
I was, when I was sitting down with Stefano before we started, we were talking a little bit about histories, and Stefano was telling me that that a very important part of his development as an architect and his education was the choice to leave Italy to go to Los Angeles and study at SciArc, and that it had opened you up to a way of thinking that was very different from what was going on in Italy at the time. And I just wonder if it's something that you can make some remarks about in terms of that that event, or that I think transformative event.
Yeah, it was fundamental for me. It's like I can't think. The school in Venice was an architecture school. You just did architecture, and you had some clear. They were telling you exactly what to do somehow. And every teacher actually had the clear idea of what had to be the final result of your project. And if you jumped out of that, you were like not as good. But that was very good at a certain level. But I felt like I needed something else, and I think that going to SciArc helped me a lot on that. Helped me a lot to develop a different way of seeing. And what I learned is like there is no right or wrong somehow. And everything I was thinking was right. When I went there, it was absolutely wrong. And that understanding was a big fight into myself. I wanted to leave soon. But then staying there helped me actually understand. I could research into myself to find what was good. And I got fights with teachers at the beginning and whatever, but I think one of the good things I'm only shocked when I teach that I don't find students that fight with me. This is very important to have a relation, I think, with teachers that is actually that puts your thought very clear, because I don't think there is a right or wrong way of doing it. There is only many ways of doing, and you have to find your way. And a fight is good.
I'm looking at the
I'm a
audience,
revolutionary for all of you.
and I don't know.
For the students.
I feel like there are more
Non-students.
no students, but so that maybe there are faculty. So we have to remind our students.
Provoke them.
We have to
Provoke
remind our
them to.
students to fight with us, and
Yeah.
that it's not as dangerous as all that.
Yeah.
I have to say the other thing I was thinking about again about the SciArc and the LA thing and your own work is that I was remembering a phrase that Philip Johnson used to describe Eric Owen Moss, because you mentioned that Eric Owen Moss was at SciArc when you were a student, and
Laura Miller was at SciArc when I was a student too.
Oh yeah.
So-
Is Laura here? Okay. Anyway, I think that Johnson's nickname for Moss was jeweler. He was a jeweler of junk.
A jeweler of
A
junk.
jeweler of junk. And I think I think it was a kind of appreciation,
Yeah.
but also something else. I don't know if it was a deprecation, but it was complicated because, as you know, the material culture with which architects build in North America, a lot of it is junk
Yeah.
compared to what you are using in the Italian circumstances. Not only.
I don't think
I mean-
there's junk. I don't know. It's a different way of building. I'm coming to Toronto. I'm very lucky here in Toronto. I have a team of people that I work with KFA office, which I forgot to mention before, but I want to mention because they were very good with me. And we always discuss about the fact that in Europe somehow you have more materials or easier to find. I think you just have to look at what you have and what are the skills of the people here, and try to use those to create your what you want. So of course, it's like you don't want to bring stones that you used in Italy here because it's a nonsense.
Right.
But maybe we have things here that you can look at. You have a lot of ice here,
only
and you had a lot of snow this year.
only
It's
for a
like-
short part of the year, but it's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, it's a good answer.
And wood, you have fantastic
No,
wood.
I mean, it was true that, particularly with the early Geary and that whole crowd, that what was exciting was the way in which they were inventing idioms that seemed to respond so directly to that material culture, which, as Johnson called it, it's perishable material in ways that are different from what you're working with. But it is interesting. I guess maybe what I want to say is just interesting to see what one might perceive as a translation of that inventive moment of Southern California, where there's this kind of unleashing of possibilities with drywall and metal cladding and frame, and seeing that sensibility translated into another material culture, and then perhaps brought back again to Toronto in the way that you're experimenting.
I think that California was a great moment for California, but there was a lot of influence by art in that moment.
Right.
And Frank Gehry relation with art is very evident. And I think that art is really is an instrument that, as architects, I find it's important to look at. Artists are able to feel things much earlier. And I feel like sometimes I compare, and so the relation with materials that happened in California, I think is very much linked to what was happening in the art world in that moment, or a little bit before. So same thing that for me, the influence had Arte Povera when I was in Torino. I was shocked to see this work. That was actually work from the late 70s. And actually to me, it was, as an architect, was new, and understanding how these people was relating actually to the forces of nature, to the Pennone, who was telling us, he was peeling off his trees to show the reality of the aging of
the history of
the tree. it's like all of that to me was so fascinating, and thinking how can architecture somehow learn and not imitate, not do art, but learn from art. It's like it's just as well it can learn from agriculture. So,
right. I mean, I liked your redirect of ornament as crime to ornament as right. Ornament as a right. But it also made me think a little bit about how, all these experiments with materials, I mean, if you think about them as being related to a tradition in architecture in which there's some ethics about the expression of the reality of architecture's material, you do that in the work. I mean, material gives rise to all sorts of inventions, all sorts of forms, management of natural circumstances, whether it's the water or ice. But it is, but it's not, it doesn't have that kind of gravitas that, of the old moderns, where the idea of the expression of material is invested with some sort of, I would call it like an ontological weight, gravitas. But in your case, there is this, the pleasure of ornament comes from the discovery of how to play with materials and the way they relate to forces. But there's a lot of invention that is ornamental.
I think that, when you use a material in a different way, you actually invent another material. It's, for example, I didn't show in the picture, but those red panels that of the research center, actually, they hide, I thought it was too boring to explain, but now I explain it. They hide a ghost inside. So I actually put inside some insulation, and when humidity outside is enough, when where the concrete is thinner, it gets wet before somehow. And so I wrote the name of the building. So it appears and it disappears. And this is a joke. It's not something important. But I always hope that joke that came to my mind while I was watching an old building that had all this stain thing, I think that those things can be then maybe one day used for something that is serious, that can be actually very important for something. So it's like you do things and you don't have expectations of being seriously important.
Right.
Maybe they come. So when we did the ice facade, we actually wanted to do an ice facade. We didn't actually think about the thermal reaction. Then we were talking with some mechanical engineer who actually said, oh, there is a potential on that. So it's like, things happen. You have to go out of the box and then something happens.
Right.
It's maybe, but without expectation. And decoration maybe is a way to do something that is not decorative at the end.
Right. Although in that, how the conversion, with the crazy roofs, at the foot of the Alps.
What?
The conversion where you have the ice flows coming down.
Yeah.
That does collect.
Yeah.
It was also practical. This happened to be.
Yeah.
Pump the water to the snow.
You do things because you like, and then you find a reason why you did it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my way. I don't know if it's right or not, but it happens. Sometimes it happens. You make a project. Actually, the project of the hall with the house around. It actually happened. Those sketches were before again we had the commission to do that. You do things that you have in the brain, and then the project will arrive. You do your own research, and then you find a moment in which that research actually becomes necessary to you. Of course, it could be done in 1,000 other ways, but to me, for that moment, one of the steps I had in that moment got me there. So there's nothing absolute. What did I say?
I'll give the audience a chance if anybody has questions or thoughts they'd like to put towards Stefano. Anybody out there? No. Oh, yes.
I was just. Hi. My name is Tom Sokolowski, and I work in installation arts, large scales, site-specific. A lot of that developed from my work in theater and opera, site specificity with R. Murray Schafer. And also I'm very taken by the situationists and the relationalists in France. And I noticed that in your buildings that you take a great deal of risk, if you like, with the materialisms or the materialistic approach that begins to shape what the negotiation of the body is within the context of the building. And I'm wondering, how would you say, the French, what's his name? Jules Lefebvre had written about the renegotiation of the body in contemporary architecture as being completely forgotten, and he's passed away since. But do you look at what the body is, the experience of the body within your architecture, other than being within the design you've created? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think that when you do architecture, let's say I presented the projects talking about water, for example. But it's not, of course, water is one of the aspects. All the other things have to be inside the project. So, of course, you build the hotel with the ice, and you concentrate somehow your attention on the ice. But at the same time, you have to create the rooms for the hotel. They have to be comfortable. They have to be nice. And I could show that, but it would be very boring, I think. I think that when you present the work, it's like you focus on something. But to answer your question, yes, we are very careful to how you leave the places, how your body relates to the places. For example, the discovery of having that hole that works there because you feel the vertigo when you are inside. It's the way your body relates to that building. It would be completely different if you didn't have that hole in the middle. So it's a lot. And of course, you have to be open to mistakes. And mistakes means work, because you have to repair from mistakes. Of course, you can't say, oh, it's a mistake, I forget it. It's like we did that facade. That facade has 3 levels of mistakes. The first one was that it didn't actually work as a facade because it was exposed to the northwest. The second mistake was that when we opened the water went in the middle of the road because it was flowing, and so we had to put those blades that you saw in the facade, and actually created a different layer again. But all of this is work. So you can't say, okay, it's a mistake, sorry. We are in architecture, so we have to give a product, and you have to, what we provide has to work, has to be, and to make it work is a lot of work. Did I answer?
Okay. One thing I wanted to say is also, given, architects are often trying to, the whole question of managing climate, is a big theme because of the concern about sustainability. And, on the one hand, there's a history, not a good one, of greenwashing buildings that look as if they are somehow managing and responding to climate change. And then on the other hand, there is a whole body of very high-tech solutions that also, in some ways, they have a kind of demonstration-like dimension to them, that they demonstrate the way building science and engineering solutions can manage envelope and thermal controls. I'm just returning to this question, this quality of ornament or play, I suppose, because one of the things I appreciate in your work is the fact that you are addressing and managing issues of climate, of material inventions also, but it doesn't feel as if it undertakes a project which is, let's say it's an ethical project, but it does it as a form of play rather than, I guess what I really am getting at. It's not virtue signaling, which I think many projects do in architecture, and architecture feels compelled to do. But sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was saying well, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
Anyway, I was thinking about that in relationship also to the inclusion of this comment that you made, more than a comment, but an important component about ornament.
Yeah.
That's all. So, more comments or thoughts? I'm having trouble seeing out into the audience, so. No?
Yeah, there's one.
Oh, okay.
Hi, thank you for your talk and the really beautiful work that you've shared. I was wondering if you could talk a bit about your process as well, and so that's something that you mentioned at the end of the lecture and this question of I don't know. Would you be able to talk about how you ask questions, listen, and respond in your work, and how time and weather and tempo play a part in that, and whether that has affected your practice over time and in different places as well?
It's all the lecture. I just finished this. No, it's, yeah. So the question is how actually we face so which was the beginning of the question? Sorry.
More about process, and I think also about how time and weather have affected your own.
Okay, yes.
As well.
The process is, let's say that we start always saying, wouldn't it be nice if? That's the question. Wouldn't it be nice if in this occasion we would use ice or whatever? Wouldn't it be nice? It's just we provoke ourselves. As an office, we generally provoke ourselves, but we provoke ourselves after we have listened to a lot of things. One of the main elements of the project we do is listening to the client. It's very important to understand what the client wants, but he never tells you what he wants because he doesn't know what he wants. He knows only what he has already seen. He's not educated in architecture.
Do you have any clients here?
I don't know. But he's not educated in generally. Not educated in architecture. Generally, actually, many of my clients are architects, but let's say mostly they're not educated in architecture. And so you have actually to try to understand their most perverse dreams. And because they think it's impossible, what for you is really easy to do, maybe, or easy to think, and go toward that, not toward what they tell you, because they may think that one thing costs a lot, and it's not that. They already make calculation, generally, so you have to feel very free, even if you never are, and start questioning what you really want to achieve from that project. What is the goal you want to achieve? Because you give a lot we at least give a lot to our clients, but we need something that is more than the money they pay for us. I actually think we deserve to get something back that is not only the money, is something that we learn from that, and their project is instrumental of our learning. So for us, it's very important. So there is a lot of negotiation in getting something back on the projects. So that's how to get that. It's managing the relation always in a constructive way, and making the mistakes and somehow solving the mistakes, giving something more. That's I don't know if I answered you, but it's important really to understand what you want to learn from that project.
Roberto, do you want to ask the last question?
He knows that. He knows more than me.
Because I understand you have a lot of dialogue. Yeah? No? Okay. I'll put you on the spot, but I don't have to. Anyway.
No, there's now.
Oh, there's more? Okay.
Hi, Stefano. You are a humble guy. It's beautiful to see that, and thank you for bringing that into this space. I enjoyed the second part of the presentation, where I joined. When I ask a question, I hope, please let me know if you've answered in the first part that I missed. There are many young architects in this room, and when you graduated as a young architect, what was the process? What do you think allowed you to be seen and be awarded those beautiful contracts to put you on the map and allow you to soar your creative ideas?
I don't know if I understood. So what helped me to...
Let me rephrase. You are a young graduate of architecture school.
Yeah.
What process, what approach do you think allowed you to be seen for your work and to be awarded the beautiful projects that you're working on today? What was your journey like?
My journey was working hard and not turning down anything from the doghouse to big condo. And sometimes even the projects that, some of the projects we thought we were not getting nothing out, actually brought us a lot of satisfaction in many ways. So it's like, it's a journey of trying. And trying as hard as you can, maybe failing, no big deal. You fail, you step back, and then you start again. But if you are scared of failing, you don't move forward, for sure. I don't know if we moved forward or what, but I'm happy with what we did because we learned a lot. So we at the end of the day we will shut the office, all the people who work in the office now, we are like 15 people divided into offices, and we collaborate in Toronto with other people. The thing is sharing this knowledge and help even younger people to start working. I feel very proud of the fact that people who work with me in Italy are working with me for at least 8 people are working for me for 17, 18 years. So it's like a family, and that's the big achievement. So I can be here. I can stay in Toronto, I can talk to them, and we understand ourselves. And a lot of people ask how I can manage an office there. And we have bigger projects now because we are getting bigger projects. And this is possible only because you create a way of thinking that is common. So it's not my way of thinking, it's the group way of thinking. Did I answer?
Yes, thank you so much.
Before I thank you, because once I do that, everybody will leave, I just want to remind everyone of a program next week. Our series continues with a lecture entitled Place Knowing by Dr. Theodore Yoyola. Dr. Yoyola is the director of the Indigenous Design and Community Planning Institute at the University of New Mexico. So he'll be lecturing on the use of indigenous planning and design strategies to inform community development through culture and identity. So it will take place at 6:30 p.m., same place, Thursday next week, March 20th. So I hope to see a lot of you there.
I wish I could be here.
Yeah. But anyway, Stefano, thank you so much. That was great. I really enjoyed having you.